It's time for the Mental Health Moment, a show exploring the world of mental health and answers for life. Brought to you by Life Launch Centers. Here's your host, Joe Newman.
Welcome to the Mental Health Moment. It's Monday and time to take a moment for your mental health. I'm your host, Joe Newman from Life Launch Centers, which was founded and started right here in Southern Utah. And this is the show where we talk about all things for your mental health. We teach healthy coping mechanisms, discuss current situations that affect our mental health, and give you tips, ideas, and resources that you can implement right now. Hopefully you're taking more time for your mental health than just a moment in this radio show. It's something that needs constant attention, just like your physical health. We all do things to prevent physical health concerns like taking vitamins, regular exercise, checkups with your doctor. Well, why is it that so often we neglect or even avoid taking care of our mental health? Maybe we're too busy to take some time off, to relax, or maybe we feel guilty when we need to take some self-care. Well, it's kind of interesting to look at mental health like we do physical health. It really helps take away the stigma against mental health when we do that. Think about it. Why is it that we often are so embarrassed or we're perceived as weak for seeking help for mental health? So, like, for example, if your shoulder was all bound up from some trauma and you had restricted range of motion, you'd go see a physical therapist to work it out. No one would think less of you and you wouldn't be embarrassed. Yet when we get all bound up with anxiety, depression, or even suicide ideation, and we even see our lives becoming restricted because of these difficult emotions, they're debilitating. We often avoid seeking help, maybe because we're worried about what others will think, or if they knew that we were seeing a therapist. Well, we've got to do away with that stigma. We need to get ourselves and our family the help they need. You can't just let the immobilized shoulder stay that way the rest of your life. It's not going to get better by itself, and it's not just a phase your shoulder is going through. You need to see the right professionals to work it out. And the same is true with debilitating anxiety, depression, suicide ideation, eating disorders, isolation, social struggles. The list goes on and on. So that's essentially what we do here at Life Launch Centers, is teach emotional tools in a group counseling format to families and give them a chance to practice those tools. Things like distress tolerance tools, mindfulness, and how to build healthy human-to-human connections. So if anxiety, depression, social struggles, anything emotionally overwhelming is taking over your family, please don't hesitate. Give us a call at Life Launch Centers. The number is 833-803-3883. And speaking of families working through hard things, I've got two very special guests on the show with me today. Mari Hobson, she is becoming a family life educator. And also we have Jennie Hayes, a stay-at-home special needs mom. Welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, Mari, tell me a little bit about your background in counseling and your interests in mental health.
The biggest background I have is my own personal experience. I'm going through hard things. It requires you to, like you said, make sure that you pay attention to your mental health. And there absolutely is a stigma around it. You kind of don't want people to know that you're getting counseling, although I really think we'd have a completely different society if everybody got it.
I think right? I know.
It really would be so helpful.
Yeah. Why is it that way? I'm not sure, but it's like you're embarrassed.
Yeah, I think that everybody would benefit. And I think that there were a lot of things that were almost these aha moments of, oh my word, I can't believe I didn't know that. And if I did, how different would, this circumstance or that experience would have been. And it really got me intrigued and is the reason why I went back to school and ultimately why I want to get my master's so I can do actually therapy in a private practice. But
That's
in the
great.
meantime, I'll do family life educating because master's takes a couple more years.
Yeah. Takes a little bit of time. That's all right.
Good time.
So, but tell me, how do you and Jennie know each other?
Well, Jennie is my friend. We have been friends for a number of years now.
I'd say 3.5 years.
About 3.5
Yeah.
years. Some people, when they meet us, they actually think, I think we were working
My bishop
on,
thought we were sisters.
yes. So
Yeah.
in our religion, within our community, they thought we were sisters. And like, yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah.
But if you want to get technical, I am married to Jennie's ex-husband. So
Gotcha.
this is my stepdaughter and my stepson's mother.
That's amazing, because so often today, divorce is such a isolating and separating factor. I mean, obviously that's, the definition of divorce, but yet, and there's often so much like stress and strife between exes, and yet somehow you guys have come together to overcome that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Divorce is heartbreaking no matter how you dice it. And divorce is hard. Co-parenting is hard. I think that at the time that I met Jennie, she and my husband Curtis had been divorced for 5 years.
Sounds
5 or 6
about
years.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were in a different place than I was with. I think I had been divorced about a year. And at the time, my co-parenting situation was really, really toxic and really bad. And so I looked at their situation with just absolute admiration, because they worked together well. You guys respect each other, conflict would arise, and regardless of, even hurt feelings, they always came back to respecting each other's role as their parent, the kids that they shared, the parents. But we kind of shoot and we talk about how everybody that is in this situation, the goal was always, we're going to be amicable. That's kind of the goal, is just to be amicable, which is good. That's great. And
it's better than toxic.
Yeah, it's better than toxic. For sure.
Absolutely.
But I think when you go into a divorce, there is this unwritten rule and this expectation that you don't like each other.
Yeah, like you're supposed to hate your ex.
Yeah, you aren't supposed to like them.
I'm not supposed to love my ex-husband's wife, but I do.
That's amazing. And I mean, this affects so many people out there. I mean, even within my family, we've got several siblings who are divorced and remarried, and I've seen the same thing. I've got some who are really, really good with their exes, and some who just continue to have more and more difficulty, even though they've divorced. It's almost like it amplified that difficulty in their relationship.
Yeah, which
and you've overcome that. Right.
Don't you think? Because you don't have to fight anymore. You're not married. That should end up fighting, right?
I love that. Like, we all get along, right?
Well, you and a lot of times I think I have friends or even acquaintances that, knowing that I've been divorced, will come to me hoping that I'm going to give them support because, they're having struggles within their marriage, and they think that I'm going to be an advocate because it was the right decision for my situation. And I'm like, oh, mercy, no, because you're going to set down one set of problems just to pick up another. And if you think you're going to, fighting over petty things, sometimes there are situations that the problems within the marriage are much more than petty, and I don't want to minimize that. But at the same time, sometimes it's really not big of deals, and I'm like, you're gonna start fighting about things that really matter, like missing half your kids' activities and holidays, birthdays. If you think that what you're fighting about now is hard, you're going to really have a hard time. And maybe that was the reason I was so like, oh, this is great. You guys are doing this well, but I really didn't like her. I did not like her.
You mean you didn't like Jennie at first?
I didn't. Well, just because you're not supposed to. Like,
because of the unspoken, unwritten rule
it's
that
not socially acceptable to like her.
Yeah.
So you just kind of look at each other like, we're good business partners. Like we work together on behalf of the kids, and it's great because in relation to my other side, it was so much better. So I'm like, this is great. We're doing great.
Let's do it this way rather than the toxic way.
I call that our growing pains.
Yes.
I mean, our family was growing.
Yes.
Mari was coming in. Mari's kids were coming into the family. It was growing. I just call those our growing pains years. But I think that no matter where you're at, I think you can build on it.
Yes.
And so why not? Because
I love, first of all, that we're just going against the social norm, because there are these unwritten rules that I think are very unhealthy, that you're supposed to be this way. And I often am in that same situation with my wife. And, like, for example, she is good friends with all of my ex-girlfriends on Facebook. Like, she will keep up with, they had another kid, or she'll be like, oh, did you see what so-and-so did? And I'd be like, no, I didn't, but that's cool that you did. And it's not like she feels jealous or, like intimidated or anything. It's pretty amazing that you can put that away. You know?
I think I looked at her I looked at her that way, just neutral, not, I don't like her. I don't not like her. And like you said, it's just a culture norm. And maybe that's the reason that we're thankful that you're, doing this show today is I think that there's a better way. And I think that there's an easier way for everybody involved, because I
love that. And I love that you're doing this show, because bringing it back to mental health, how does this affect your mental health? How have you experienced your relationship and the way that you're structuring this going against the social norm affects your mental health?
I would say it's so much better, like, to just alleviate a source of stress in your life by becoming closer to somebody. Like, I think that's a lot better than adding the stress of arguing and fighting.
And I think it's focusing on the things that you gain. So I think a lot of the reason why couples that are in this situation struggle is because they're focusing on the insecurity issues of the situation.
Right.
Are they a better mom? Is she a better mom than I am? Do the kids like her better than they like me? Am I a better wife than she is? And so you have this, or, however.
Comparing. And
you're comparing yourself. And so it comes from a place of fear and insecurity, rather than I have another set of parents that. So one day Jennie called because Sophie had pulled out her feeding tube, and she was at the hospital here in Cedars before she moved here. Yeah. And she had her other son, Max, who he was 3 or 4, maybe 3 at the time. Yeah, he was probably 3. Anyway, she's like, I don't know anybody here.
Yeah, I just happen to be in Cedar.
Yeah. And I'm like, absolutely. So I rushed down to the hospital and I pick up Max, and he came over and he had dinner with the family. And like, rather than focusing on what you're losing and what you're risking, you focus on, you have so many more resources and opportunities. And honestly, one of the first things that I focus on first people I talk to when I have like a fail moment as a mom, I'll call my other halves, because they understand better than anybody else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
As
an ally.
She gets along well with her ex-husband's wife as well. So did you hear her say other halves? That's because Nisha also.
Yeah.
She gets along well with Nisha as well. And I get along really well with my husband's ex-wife as well.
That's amazing. It's really amazing. And honestly, I want to talk more about this. I got to go to a break, but we're going to come back and talk a little bit about how it affects the kids, because honestly, there's a lot of benefit that comes from being able to do this in a healthy way. So, but once again, if you're not familiar with Life Launch Centers, we work with youth and young adults ages 11 to 26 years old, struggling with anxiety, depression, and other difficult mental health conditions. It's group counseling. And everyone knows that group really is the most effective form of therapy. So if you feel tired of counseling, or if it didn't work, or what you really need is group. that's where the growth really happens. The defensive walls come down. People are able to see that they're not alone in their struggles. And the best part is that most insurances even cover treatment. So we're in network with Select Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Medicaid, PEHP, DMBA. Even if I didn't mention your health insurance company, we can help you get coverage. So, and also with it being so close to the end of the year, take advantage of the paid off deductibles and get your family the help that they need. So don't wait. Give us a call at 833-803-3883. We'll be back in just 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Kennedy, and I went through the Life Launch Centers program about 2 years ago for roughly 11 weeks. And to anyone who is thinking about joining this program, I offer some words of advice. Before I joined, I did not want to. My mom had been giving me these ideas to join a group and to go to therapy, and I pushed against her. And I said, I don't need this. I'm fine. I'm strong enough. I don't need help. Like, what do you mean? And it wasn't until one day, actually, there's a specific day in my mind where I woke up and it was just, my world felt like it was crashing in. It was a pivotal moment for me where I finally saw clearly, I do need help. And so I went to my mom and I said, okay, I'm ready. And that changed my life. Don't wait until the last second when your world is crashing in. Just go for it. Just reach out and ask for help because it's so worth it. You don't have to be afraid. No one is going to judge you. No one thinks that you're weak. You're actually strong for asking for help. And so I would say 100% reach out, go for it, go to group. It's so fun. And you start to learn all these tools to help you and others around you, and you gain confidence in yourself, which is what I needed. And I'm so thankful for that because now I get to be a confident girl that loves life instead of hating life and hating myself. So do it, go for it.
Welcome back to the Mental Health Moment. I'm your host, Joe Newman from Life Launch Centers. And today I've got on the show with me, Mari Hobson. She's becoming a family life educator. And also Jennie Hayes, who's a stay-at-home special needs mom, who have a very interesting relationship. Ladies, you guys tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to know each other.
Well, we are friends first, we say now, but Mari is my ex-husband's wife, and I'm her husband's ex-wife.
And first half, we kind of talked about how you guys have this amicable relationship in divorce, which is really strange, kind of going against the social norm, but how it's helping so much for the family. Tell me, how did you get to that point?
Well, it started out amicable with respect, but we still had a lot of disagreements. I wouldn't have said that we were friends back then. And then we had a pivotal point that sort of just changed everything. I had a baby, my last one, and she was diagnosed with a terminal illness.
So it had, like, for me, it happened instantly.
Yeah. So she instantly became compassionate towards me. And it just changed everything.
She had called so my bonus daughter, her daughter, was super excited when she found out she was pregnant because she found out it was a girl. She was going to have a sister. It was going to be so exciting. She talked about all these big sister things she was going to do, and everything was fine. And then Jennie had called Curtis and I to see if we would bring the kids down to see the new baby and if we would actually set aside a little bit to talk with her. And I remember Curtis hung up the phone and relayed that information to me. And I'm like, why does she need to talk to us?
What now?
And I'm like, wait, she needs to talk to you, right? He said, no, she wants to talk to both of us. I'm like, whatever, fine, we'll talk. And so
that's basically how it was.
Yeah. So we went to the park. And we went to that park over kind of by the rodeo grounds where they do the Dixie Downs, where it has that park So we're sitting on a park bench and I had Curtis on this side of me and I was sitting in the middle, and then there was an empty space on the bench on the other side. And we were just waiting for Jennie to come up, and she walked up and she just looked like something was just horribly wrong.
Uh-oh.
And she sat down. And she proceeded to tell us that Sophia had been diagnosed with a terminal condition, and that at the time they thought that she would pass away anytime. And then she just fell to pieces and just sobbed.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, like, in an instant, like just instantly, she went from being my husband's ex-wife to Jennie. She's a mom, she's grieving. And how do you not reach out and hold her? And just, you just instantly see her different. And then after that, we talked and we came up with a game plan of how to talk to the kids. But then after that, I couldn't not check up on her.
Yeah. So she started checking in on me, and she started becoming my friend.
And I think I went down after a couple weeks and held Sophia
in my house. So that would be the first time that that Mari came into my house, and that would be the first time the kids kind of, we were sharing space in one of our homes, and everything just kind of built after that. And for me, I responded to Mari's compassion, but I was so stressed out at that time that I really didn't have the bandwidth to analyze other people's intentions anymore. And so I just started giving everybody in my life the benefit of the doubt, and everything, especially with my ex and his wife, just started to get better. And then we started doing things together.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the first thing that I noticed was how, like, the light in the kids' eyes to see us together.
Yes.
There's a lot of research and statistics regarding, how divorce affects kids. Yeah. They have an increase of adolescent adjustment problems and academic, difficulties. They have a higher risk of getting into, all this.
A lot of social indicators. Absolutely.
Right. But there is a lot of studies that I was reading that was talking about how, some children don't find the separation of the parents the hardest part to cope with. In fact, they find that the most difficult part is when it comes to dealing with the divorce and the stress that accompany it, as far as like the inconvenience of having two separate situations, moving, changing homes, living with one parent, being caught in the middle. And I think that parents get so caught up in their own emotions and their own, how they're feeling, because that's obviously a lot for the parents to go through, that they totally have these blinders on of, okay, these kids are struggling and they need resources and they need support, and they're just not getting it. And so I think that for us, we had done an interview. The SU had asked us to do something similar to this, and we actually interviewed the kids because we wanted to see what their perspective was. And it was interesting to hear how different, and from their perspective of, they didn't have two separate families, they have one big family.
Yeah.
They were talking about how one of, some of their favorite moments were just seeing all of us together. And the really cool thing was having this happen. It helped me see my other situation different. And I fought to see her outside of the situation, and we became friends. And just the dynamic and how that has helped the kids has been incredible.
Yeah. Changed everything. Remember the first time?
Go ahead, Jennie.
This is a quick story. Do you remember the first time that we went to the temple open house together? That was one of our first family things that we did, me and my husband, my ex-husband and his wife and all the kids. And Sarah was just bouncing around like, this is my mom and this is my mom.
Yeah.
This is my mom and this is my mom. And she was just bragging to the workers and everybody, and just made the difference.
And we have this picture of all of us together with me and Curtis and you, and I think your stepsons were there. I think it was all of us.
Mason, wasn't it? Mason was missing, but yeah, it was a lot of us. Yeah,
anyway,
it was a good group.
But I have this picture because it was right before the other half we had gotten better resolution, and I have this picture of all of us standing together. But my biological daughter is standing beside me, and she is just watching
me
too. Yeah, she's just like, because they just hadn't seen, and that was one of the first times that I'm like, oh man, we've got to get this together. We've got to figure this out on, the other side as well. Yeah. So it's been a blessing.
That's amazing.
all around.
And it seems like vulnerability, what I heard was there was vulnerability as a catalyst to help establish that kind of relationship, and also compassion. Exactly. And those are two so powerful tools and principles to apply to mental health. And ladies, you're amazing. It's crazy that we're already out of time. These things always go way too fast. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. You truly are amazing.
Thank you for having us. It's fun to get together and talk about it.
We love to do this.
Well, I hope everybody out there got some great ideas about, what we can do to help our kids through some difficult things in life, like divorce. Your family, just so you know, your family doesn't have to struggle alone through these things. There are resources, and I hope that this has been a help for you. Feel free to jump on our website at lifelaunchcenters.com. There's a lot of great and free resources there. And or just give us a call at 833-803-3883. This has been your Mental Health Moment. Join us again next time right here on St. George News Radio. This is Joe Newman signing off from Life Launch Centers. Until next time, keep those kids safe and keep your sanity.
You've been listening to the Mental Health Moment, brought to you by Life Launch Centers. For more info, visit them at lifelaunchcenters.com.